Hello everyone, in this video I'll be ranking the Elden Ring bosses on a tier list. So there's some really great bosses in this game. It's probably one of the best games if you enjoy boss fights. Now first things first, we got Renala, Queen of the Full Moon. She has, in my opinion, one of the best arenas in the game, but this fight can be definitely a bit frustrating. It's not that difficult your second, third time around, but overall it's I would say a B tier. Now, just a little bit of preface here. I've beat Elden Ring 11 times. I'm currently on my 12th playthrough, so I play this game a lot. And Renala's just fair as far as boss fights go. Like, the first phase is pretty slow because you have to take out the mobs and then attack her, and you have to do that a couple times. And then the second phase, she summons in the summons, and it gets a little bit more difficult. I wish the phases were maybe switched around. I feel like that'd be making the first phase a little bit more challenging. And I think that would make it a little bit better of a fight. Next, we got Godric the Grafted. A pretty decent first legacy dungeon boss, but overall, nothing super exciting here. Godric's kind of a joke in terms of the demigods in Elden Ring, as he's Godric the Golden, but he's constantly trying to make himself appear stronger. That's why he grafts himself. The boss fight in general is just okay. Like, the second phase when he brings out the dragon's pretty funny, but he's not difficult at all. Like, I didn't struggle with him. Margit the Fell Omen that first time around was much harder than him. So, yeah, I'm thinking he's a C tier boss. Next, we got Commander Nile, and this is a really challenging fight. This one, I did a challenge stream one time where I had to do 15 squats every time I died in Elden Ring, and Commander Nile committed to like 200 of those. So, I gotta put some respect on his name. Put him in the A tier. Commander Nile is a very challenging fight. You do have to take care of him, as well as his two summons that he brings in. Now, a little fun interaction. If you use a Bewitching branch on one of the summons, they'll turn and attack him. So you can use that to your advantage to make this fight a little bit easier, but it is a very challenging one overall, and as his attacks hit in a huge area of effect. Next, we got Loretta, Knight of the Halig Tree. This Loretta fight is a little bit better than the one in Carrion Manor. I would put this above Renala. I'd probably put it in the B tier. This fight's like at the halfway point of the Halig Tree, which I like the Halig Tree as an area. It's a pretty interesting one. It's very challenging, but interesting. So I'm going to put that in the B tier because she is a not that challenging of a boss, but it's a fun one. She shoots her bow at you. She's riding around on a horse. I wish we got to ride her horse and fight her, but yeah, it's still a decent fight overall. Next, we have the Red Wolf of Radagon. This is a pretty cool one. It's a big wolf that casts spells while you fight it. That's pretty cool in theory, but I think it just falls short of expectations as far as boss fights go. I don't want to put it too high because it is a pretty challenging fight not the most challenging fight overall, but at your first attempt at it, it might take a couple attempts. The run back to this boss is pretty chill and easy, and then once you beat this boss, the grace that appears there, you can literally run to Renala from there. So I think that that's an alright boss fight overall. Next, we have Godskin Apostles. I think that they're pretty solid. I'm going to put them in the A tier. They are much better than the Godskin Nobles. The Nobles with their rolling attack is extremely frustrating, but the Godskin Apostle, they're a pretty fun fight overall. I like when they do their stretchy boy attack where they're like coming towards you and spinning their Godskin Peeler. Pretty fun fight overall. There is one in the Windmill Village where you can get the Godskin Peeler, which I think is one of the best weapons against the Elden Beast. It's a pretty fun fight, and they're scary. Like, they got this like horrific look to them. I think that they're a pretty cool guy. They're a pretty cool boss overall. So yeah, A tier. Next, we had Elemer of the Briar, and this is a pretty underrated boss, I would say. I'm also going to put this up in the A tier. Elemer of the Briar is he's at I forget the name of the place, but he's kind of tucked away. Some people might not even fight him, but he does have really great gear, and overall the fight's pretty fun. He's a NPC mob style boss, but overall, I think that it's a fun boss fight in general. Every time that I run up on him, I find his fight to be more enjoyable than some of the other ones, and it's always fun going against another NPC style enemy like yourself. That it makes it feel like the playing field's a bit leveled. Next, we're getting into some big bosses here with Rykard. Rykard's pretty decent, but it's a gimmick boss, so I think that the best that I could put is probably the top of the B tier, maybe. You have to use the Serpent Hunter. You don't have to, actually. I beat him without it before. It's just frustrating because he has lava around him, but if you stock up on the fire resistance, you can kind of take care of that. But overall, Serpent Hunter, spam it. Take out the Mimic tier, have him spam it. It's taken care of. Not that challenging. Next, we have the Fire Giant, which A lot of people hate the Fire Giant. I have boss guides on the Fire Giant, and a lot of people seem to hate him. I think that the Fire Giant is a pretty fun fight. It's a challenging one. He's the last Fire Giant in Elden Ring, and in the lore, it just makes sense for it to be a very big challenge. It has two distinct phases. Although it's not the most challenging, you can check out my channel. I have some videos if you want to see ways you can kind of cheese this boss. I'm going to put the Fire Giant in the S tier. Some people may not agree with that because a lot of complaints about this boss in particular, but I think it's a fair challenge. And it's one of the final bosses. Like, you fight him, Godskin Duo, Malekith, and then the final run of 4 bosses. So it's warranted for how challenging it is. There's luckily a Grace right beside where he is, so you don't have to run back too far, which is always nice. I didn't know that Grace existed on I think it took me 2 playthroughs to realize that. So I had a long run back, and even then that long run back wasn't too bad. So I'm putting Fire Giant in the S tier. Next we have the Valiant Gargoyles. They are a frustrating boss. This is I was talking to someone the other day about how this was the one boss that I just could not beat. I took a bleed build my first time playing this game, as everyone does. I think I want to put the Valiant Gargoyles in the C tier. They're annoying. They resist everything. There's a second one that'll come in when its health gets down to about 50%. They spam poison. They're a nuisance to deal with. They're a decent design boss, but it's kind of a redesign of the Black Blade Kindred, and we had to fight 2 of them, so they're just frustrating overall. Next we got Mimic Tier, which it's a good fight in theory, but the fact that you can just unequip your weapon, walk into the arena, and then equip it again, and the Mimic Tier itself won't have any weapon and just punches you for minimal damage, makes this boss, I'm going to put it in the F tier. The Mimic Tier is a great partner. The Mimic Tier is pretty much the Elden Lord for some people that use it as a summon, because it helps you beat the game big time. I just don't think that the boss fight of the Mimic Tier is very difficult, and yeah, I've always stomped it, even without taking away the weapon. Still a very easy fight. Next we have Godskin Noble. I'm going to put it in the C tier. The rolling attack is extremely frustrating, especially in the Godskin Duo fight. When he's rolling towards you and you can't do anything. Like, there's no way to dodge. You can dodge roll towards him, but the chance of you getting hit by it are very high, and it just feels like an unfair attack. It's not a bad fight overall, just that rolling attack is annoying. If it didn't have the rolling attack, I'd probably put it up in the A tier, just below the Apostle. So, yeah, it is a little frustrating. Next we got Godfrey, the first Elden Lord / Horalu Warrior. This is an easy S tier. Godfrey is a fantastic fight. He's the only like bruiser, brawler type fighter in Elden Ring. And that second phase, woo, when he drops those WWE style fighting moves on you, it is super cool. I think this is one of the best overall bosses in the game. I wish it was harder. I do really wish Godfrey was harder, because I feel like there needs to be a bit more respect on his name. There's just a few different ways that you can easily take him down. I was even able to beat him in under a minute with a crazy bleed build that I whipped up. So he is a S tier boss for sure, because Godfrey is he's cool. First Elden Lord. And the whole thought of, like, when he breaks the tiger's neck, breaks the lion's neck, gets rid of his pride, and then becomes the Horalu Warrior. I think that that's one of the coolest and well done boss fights in the game. So easy S tier. Horalu Warrior is very cool. Next we got Crucible Knight and the Misbegotten Warrior. Crucible Knights are pretty fun in general. There's a fun fact. Godfrey's Crucible Knights, there were 16 of them, and there's 16 of them in the game. So they did it perfectly. I'm going to put this fight in the B tier. Like, it's not a bad fight overall. It's just like a dungeon fight. The Crucible Knights are fun to fight, but having another one there is just annoying. Margit the Fell Omen. Now, this is where a lot of people quit the game. I'm going to put him at the top of the A tier. Margit deserves the respect. He is a very fun fight, challenging, but not impossible, and it teaches you the mechanics of the game very well. Margit's biggest difficulty is the delayed attacks that he has, so he'll like, Liza P did it as well, where the attacks didn't fully line up with their animations correctly, so it makes it a little bit challenging, but his are just delayed, and once you get the delay down pat, you'll be crushing him every single time. Also, you fight him again. You can fight him 2 more times in the game, so at Morgott, and then there's another Margit fight in the game, so yeah. Pretty fun. Next, we got Star Scourge Radahn. I think Radahn's honestly quite a solid boss. I'm going to put him in the S tier as well, probably above Fire Giant. What makes Radon so fun is the fact that he's got a scrawny little horse that he's riding on, and then he literally goes up in the stars and flies down at you. There is apparently there's supposed to be a different fight. So Astel, Natural Born of the Void, was actually supposed to come in during the second phase. That was one of the plans for the game because he was holding back the stars and Astel is the stars. So that's why he has the animation for him flying in, because it was actually supposed to be Astel doing that, which I think is pretty cool. But Radon in general, very challenging fight. They nerfed him pretty hard because he was really tough, but he's not impossible. Summon in the helpers and you won't have the hardest time with him. Next, we got Rich Dragon 40 stacks, or Lich Dragon 40 stacks. This is a pretty fun fight. I'm going to put him in the A tier too, as well. Deathblight is scary and difficult to deal with, and he deals it. And the arena itself is really cool. It's the same as Fia's Champion, so you're fighting him right outside of Godwin's corpse, which is disgusting and mermaid-like, but I think it's very haunting and cool. I'm going to put that in the A tier for sure. I think that's probably the best dragon fight other than Dragon Lord Placidu Sax. Lich Dragon 40 stacks is pretty fun, and the Deathblight Lightning is cool too. And oh, speaking of the devil, Dragon Lord Placidu Sax, I think I'd put him just above him. The second phase when he's like flying through the sky and coming at you like crazy, it's a challenging fight overall. I found that the Envoy's Longhorn can actually do a great number on him with the bubble attack. Same thing as Fire Giant; they're both pretty weak to those. So if you're struggling with them, I got videos on how to take him down with that weapon. It's pretty easy. Morgott the Omen King. This is just like the Margit. I think the Margit fight's more memorable for me personally. And by the time you get to Morgott, you can usually stomp him pretty quickly. Like I find his health just isn't as high as Margit. Plus, you can also summon in Melina. I just recently did it without any summons, and it wasn't that hard. But again, you do fight him as Margit, so you get a lot of experience fighting him multiple times, so you will get good at it, and it makes the fight a whole lot easier. So yeah, A tier. Mohg, Lord of Blood. Nihil. I'm going to put him I'll put him right beside his brother there, Morgott. You have to have you don't have to, but the Wondrous Physic that prevents the blood loss from his attack is pretty useful here because he does have that Nihil attack, which will basically drain your health. This is the entrance to the DLC, so he gets a little bit higher treatment, I guess. It overall isn't a bad fight. He's resistant to fire and weak to bleed, believe it or not. So that's the best way to take care of him. Mohg's an interesting character. He's like Morgott is like kind of the good they're both rejected by the Erd tree because they're omens, but Morgott still serves the Erd tree and the Golden Order, whereas Mohg is like, screw that, let's start our own dynasty, and tries to kidnap Mikola, which is kind of funny. Well, you guess he does. But yeah, Mohg is an A tier. Next we got Malekith the Black Blade. I think I'm going to put Malekith I'll probably put him right behind Godfrey. Malekith was the boss that gave me the most trouble in my playthroughs of Elden Ring. When I talked about the challenge getting wrecked by Commander Nile, Malekith the Black Blade did that to me as well. 40 plus deaths, I would say, to Malekith. I learned this fight pretty well now, though, so anytime I do it, it's only a couple attempts, and then I can take him down. But yeah, my first ever time playing, Malekith kicked me. It was a freaking tough fight. It's the second phase when he jumps around. He's really fast that I just didn't know how to deal with, but use the pillars to your advantage and get your hits in, but play more defensive. Fia's Champions, not a bad fight, but it can be frustrating. I think I'll put it at the bottom of the B tier. Especially on New Game Plus when they start calling in like the Rancor call spells and different spells that literally just drain your health immediately. For some reason I had a lot of challenge with this fight on New Game Plus in multiple playthroughs. I don't know why. Like my first time I stomped them, and then in subsequent playthroughs they just have a weird power scaling, I guess. Not the worst fight in the game, but it's just not memorable. It's just 5 different ghostly figures. What's cool is it will take, if you play online, it'll take builds from other players and use them. So that's pretty cool. Next we got the Elden Beast and Radagon of the Golden Order. I'll put them just below Morgott. If the Elden Beast was a little bit better, I would prefer them. Radagon's fight's awesome. Like super fun, challenging but fun. The Elden Beast, My biggest issue is it moves around way too much. It flies around, you can get a couple hits in, then it's gone to the other side of the map. And the map is huge. It feels like you should be able to use your horse torrent here, but you can't. If you could, I feel like I would put it in the S tier because it is a fun fight, cool aesthetic, the music is awesome, but he moves around way too much. Some people might even put him lower than I did, but it's the final boss in the game, and it makes sense that it has to be a challenge. It's just he moves around way too much, and RNG is a big factor here because sometimes you get really lucky and get a lot of attacks off. Also, I just posted a video. If you use Spiral Shard, you can completely cheese this boss because it hits multiple times and takes him out. Same thing as Pest Threads. So, yeah. Godskin Duo. I think I'll put it above the dragons, not above Moog. I'd put it probably right around there. It's a very freaking challenging boss, and it's 2 bosses, and you have to fight them multiple times. Is it fun? Yeah, debatable. I think that what part of the fun in this is how frustrating it is. If you're really struggling, bring sleep pots and a mimic tier. Your mimic will throw the sleep pots at the Godskin Duo and put them to sleep so you can only fight one at a time, making this a whole lot easier. So, when in doubt, sleep pot it out. I am Millennia, Blade of Mikola, and I have never known defeat. I'm putting her in the S tier for sure. I'll put her above Radon. This fight is memorable because it is one of the hardest boss fights in all of gaming. I think it's a bit overhyped for how challenging it really is, and there's some builds that will completely cheese her and make this a whole lot easier. I have boss guides for all these bosses on my channel, so if you struggle with any of them, go check out my videos because I do a good job of covering it concisely. But I think Millennia Blade of Mikola is definitely an S tier choice because the fight is well known as being one of the hardest boss fights in the game, or in any game really. What makes her so hard is she heals herself with attacks. She has a waterfowl dance, which can shred your... If you bring a summon, they're getting wrecked, and she's healing from it. So, very brutal. But there are some ways you can cheese her with, like, the Blasphemous Blade works well. The Great Stars with the Prelight's Charge can also do really well. So, yeah, S tier. Next, we got the Regal Ancestor Spirit. I think that this boss is really great. It's not hard. I'm probably going to put it at the top of the B tier. But the aesthetics, the music, everything about this fight is fun. It feels like you're actually fighting a deer that's like given up on its life, which is really sad. But it's a fun fight overall. The music is awesome. I think that this is a pretty fun fight, but nothing spectacular. So that's why it's going in the B tier. Next we got Magma Worm Makar, which so I played the Elden Ring seamless co-op mod with my friends. We had 3 of us playing. We got stomped by this guy. We were trying to make it the Leyndell. For some reason, we could not beat him for the life of us. So I think he does belong somewhere around B tier because he is a good challenge. I'll put it right there. The lava that he leaves behind is challenging. It's a pretty tough fight in general. So yeah, B tier. Leonone, Mess Begun. It's just okay. I'll put it in the C tier. One of the first bosses you'll fight in the game. Nothing challenging. It is what it is. Flying Dragon Akil. I'd probably also say somewhere around C tier. The dragon fights are kind of repetitive because there's so many dragons in the game, but 2 of them stand out much more than the others. Next we got Gideon Ofnir, the All-Knowing, which is a pretty fun fight, I'll be honest. What makes Gideon cool is he'll learn different spells depending on which bosses you fought. So if you fought Millennia, he'll do the Scarlet Aeoni attack, which is pretty cool. I think he belongs probably top of the B tier. I don't hate the Gideon fight, it's just not hard. You can literally I don't think that I've ever played through without beating him on my first attempt. He's pretty simple. Next, we got Estelle, a Natural Born of the Void. This is the Eldritch Horror boss of the game. I'm going to put him right about there in the S tier. Estelle is awesome. There's also Estelle Stars of Darkness in the Consecrated Snowland, so you can fight him again. And that one will summon in multiple Estelles. It's pretty cool. But I love the skull aesthetic with the eyeball on the inside. He's got the big pinchers. I think it's related to a Falling Star beast, which kind of makes sense. He's a fallen star, and I think that these grow into Estelle. You fight some other creatures that are similar to Estelle in the game, but this fight in particular was very memorable for me, so I'm putting it in the S tier. Next, we got Dragonkin Soldier, which is a pretty cool fight. What makes this fight so fun is the fact that you're fighting him in a very cool place with this guy on a big chair, dead skeleton dude overlooking you. The arena itself brings a lot of the joy of the Dragonkin fight. It's not a hard fight overall. I think I'll put it roughly roughly around there, right between Renala and the Red Wolf. The aesthetic, again, kind of the same thing with these two, is the aesthetic is what really drives this fight. You can also fight another one in the Lake of Rot, which I think is one of the coolest areas in the game, but what makes it challenging there is the fact that you have to raise the platforms to fight them on. Finally, we got the Falling Star Beast, which I was thinking is like a B tier fight. It has a lot of resistances. It's pretty challenging overall, so I put it in the B tier. It's just not my favorite fight in the game. I think that some of these others are much better. So Godfrey, the first Elden Lord, Malekith, and Millennia, Radon, Astel, and Fire Giant, I think, are the best in the game. And then we also got Morgott. I could even move Margit up to the S tier. I think that he might be deserving of that. So maybe like that. Very great tutorial boss. This is one of the best, I would say, in any From Software game. But there you have it, folks. That is my tier list ranking all the Elden Ring bosses. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.